If you are a commerce student and suppose you went for an interview and interviewer ने आपको क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया what is the difference between cost and expenses, और अगर आपको इसका आंसर नहीं मालूम है तो आपकी तो बत्ती गुल है ना. Both the terms are very similar. So friends, in this video we'll be talking about the different types of cost, classification of cost, one of the very important chapter for MCOM, BCOM, CA and MBA students. And we will also learn the difference between these terms, cost, expenses, जिसको हम लोग बहुत बार common language में बहुत जगह पे use करते हैं, but we do not know exactly what is the difference between these two terms. तो start करते हैं वीडियो, and वीडियो को जरूर से लास्ट तक देखिए, बहुत यूजफुल है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट भी है. एंड वन थिंग मोर, अगर अभी तक आपने चैनल को सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया हुआ है तो काइंडली सब्सक्राइब. ओके फ्रेंड्स, नाउ दिस इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन कॉस्ट एंड एक्सपेंसेस. बहुत सिंपल है, ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड. कॉस्ट इज द अमाउंट स्पेंड ऑन प्रोड्यूसिंग ए कमोडिटी और एक्वायरिंग ए फिक्स्ड एसेट, वेयर एज expenses is the amount paid for ongoing business activities. The business activities में बहुत सारे पेमेंट्स करने होते हैं, तो they are all expenses. The second one, it is a one time payment. Cost is a one time payment, whereas expenses it's a regular payment, like salaries of the employees, rent of the office building. So these are what? These are regular payments, so they are expenses. And generally this cost is generally shown on the asset side of the balance sheet. Plant and machinery, land and building, machinery, बहुत सारे हैं, तो they are shown on the balance sheet asset side, whereas all the expenses they are shown on the profit and loss account debit side, right? Let's see what are the different types of cost that we consider in accounting or economics. Now, before we study the different types of cost, there are some categories on which the different types of costs are classified. First one, on the basis of functions. Number two, on the basis of identity. Number three, on the basis of variability. Number four, on the basis of product or period. Number five, on the basis of control. And lastly, on the basis of decision making. So these are the different types of categories on the basis of which we can again classify the different types of cost. इस पूरी दुनिया में ये होते हैं सारे different types of cost, इसके आगे और कोई cost नहीं है, right? तो देखते हैं सबसे पहले on the basis of functions. Now there are four types of cost here. First one, manufacturing cost, the costs which are directly related with the manufacturing of a product or service. So that is called manufacturing, like cost of raw materials, cost of power, fuel, like that. Then comes the cost of this thing, administration cost, because for administration of the business enterprise you need what? You need managers, supervisors, officers, executives. So you have to pay salary to them, no? So that is administrative cost, right? So that is on the basis of functions. Again, a very important cost, selling cost. Generally as a businessman you would like to sell your product or service, definitely, otherwise you won't be able to earn profits, no? So you have to incur some selling expenses like carriage on sales. You may be required to do some sort of advertisement. Again, you need to spend money on that. You need to spend on the propaganda, traveling expenses, conveyance, a lot of expenses. So these are all selling expenses which are incurred to sell a product or service to the customers. And lastly, the distribution expenses. We need to distribute, as a manufacturing unit, you need to distribute the product to your customers who are located in different areas, localities. So there again, transportation cost, warehousing cost, traveling cost, again बहुत सारे cost आ गए. So these are all examples of distribution cost. The next category is on the basis of identity. Like identity, there can be only two types of cost: direct cost, indirect cost. Direct cost, they are directly related with the manufacturing or producing a product or service. They are directly related. Like for example, cost of raw materials. If you want to manufacture a product, you need to buy raw materials. So that is your direct cost. And indirect cost, all these three classes of cost, just now we studied on the functions. This administration cost, selling cost, distribution cost. So they are all indirect costs because they do not help, or we do not incur these expenses to manufacture a product. They are not directly related with the production, right? So therefore they are indirect cost. Now this is the most important one which generally strikes in the exams. On the basis of variability, how can we classify? We can classify into three classes: fixed cost, variable cost and semi-variable cost. You need to write, ये क्वेश्चन बहुत बार एग्जाम्स में आए हुए हैं, इसको बहुत अच्छे से करना है, इसके डिफरेंसेस टेबुलर फॉर्म में लिखेंगे तो बहुत अच्छा है. Now let me explain you. Fixed cost, they remain fixed whether you produce a product or not. प्रोडक्शन हो या ना हो, you have to pay fixed cost. जैसे रेंट ऑफ द फैक्ट्री बिल्डिंग, लाइक इट डजंट मैटर आप प्रोडक्शन करो या मत करो, लेकिन यू हैव टू पे द रेंट, राइट? देन कम्स वेरिएबल इट चेंजेस विद द प्रोडक्शन. द मोर यू विल प्रोड्यूस, द मोर विल बी द वेरिएबल कॉस्ट, लाइक द कॉस्ट ऑफ रॉ मटेरियल्स. ठीक है, आप जितना ज्यादा प्रोडक्शन करेंगे उतना ज्यादा रॉ मटेरियल्स चाहिए, सो दैट इज वेरिएबल. Then comes semi-variable. Semi-variable is a mixture of these two, fixed and variable cost, right? So like in semi-variable, like the cost remains fixed for a certain level and then again it increases or decreases. Like for example, हमारे घर में इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल आता है. इट्स अ वेरी गुड एग्जाम्पल. इलेक्ट्रिसिटी बिल, इलेक्ट्रिक बिल, पावर बिल. तो यहाँ पे क्या होता है, देयर इज अ फिक्स्ड रेंट कि भाई 100 रुपीज़ और 200 रुपीज़, सो दैट इज़ फिक्स्ड. एंड उससे ज़्यादा अगर हम लोग इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कंज्यूम करते हैं, वी नीड टू पे मोर फॉर दैट. सो दैट इज कॉल्ड सेमी वेरिएबल. सम पार्ट ऑफ द कॉस्ट इज फिक्स्ड, द अदर पार्ट इज वेरिएबल. सो लाइक दिस यू कैन explain your answer. And you can also explain this because this question is very important and you may draw a graph for this. Like for fixed cost, the graph will be something like this, right? For variable cost, it generally goes up with the production. The more you produce, the more will be the variable cost. And for semi-variable cost, you will start the graph from here because this part is fixed and this part is variable. So like this you can draw graph for these three types of cost. Then comes product cost and period cost. You may be asked to write the difference between this. Product cost, as the name implies, it relates with the production. It relates with the production of the product or service. Like whatever, all these expenses, manufacturing, administrative, selling, distribution, so they are all related with the product. So they are called product cost. And when we talk about this period cost, generally period means time interval. After a certain time, you have to pay these expenses. Like for example, salaries of the employees. So after every month you have to pay, whether they will work or not, whether you made them to work or not, whether there is production or not. So after a certain interval you have to pay the expenses. So that's why that name is periodic cost. Then on the basis of controllability. Now this is very simple. Controllability, the cost which can be controllable. We have full control over this cost. So that's why they are called controllable. Like for example, cost of raw materials. So we can control that. If we do not waste the product, रॉ मटेरियल्स का अगर वेस्टेज नहीं करेंगे या फिर हमें जितना चाहिए उतना प्रोडक्शन करेंगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली क्या है कि उसकी जो रॉ मटेरियल्स की सप्लाई है, उसके कॉस्ट है, उसको कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं. So that is controllable. Uncontrollable, there are few costs which are uncontrollable, out of control, like rent, salaries. So you just have no control over this cost. You have to pay. Like for example, depreciation. Depreciation is also a cost. So you can't control that. You can't help or you can't stop the machine to be being depreciated or decrease in the value. So it is uncontrollable. Then comes on the basis of decision. On the basis of decision, there can be three types: sunk cost, marginal cost and differential cost. Now ये जितने भी cost हैं ये सारे आप लिख लोगे, but this one is bit different. Sunk stands for historical cost. The cost which have already been sunk, डूब गया है. Like for example, if you bought a machine 5 years back and that time its value was say say 5 lakhs, and now the value of that machine is 2 lakhs. So that means that 5 lakhs which you have incurred 5 years back, so that has been sunk down. And in fact, we do not pay much attention to this type of cost, sunk cost, because they are historical cost. And according to the accounting principles, we only record the cost when it is appeared or occurred. When we purchase the machine, we immediately record the cost. So that is sunk cost. Then comes marginal cost. Marginal cost is, it's very interesting topic, marginal cost. Generally, एक कहावत है, you cannot gain unless and until someone loses for you. आपका फायदा तभी तक नहीं हो सकता जब तक कि किसी का नुकसान नहीं हो सकता. And you can only manufacture a product by sacrificing the other product. Now say for example you have a piece of land. So if you want to open a factory there, you have to sacrifice other activities on that land. ठीक है. अगर मान लो आपको अगर say suppose you are a manufacturing company, आपकी गारमेंट्स की फैक्ट्री है, एंड इफ यू वांट टू से मैन्युफैक्चर शर्ट्स, तो यू हैव टू सैक्रिफाइस द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ टी शर्ट्स एंड अदर गारमेंट्स. सो इन दैट वे दैट इज कॉल्ड मार्जिनल कॉस्ट. यू हैव टू सैक्रिफाइस वन प्रोडक्ट फॉर द अदर, राइट? सो दैट इज मार्जिनल कॉस्ट, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट वन. एंड समटाइम्स वी लूजेस our income due to this marginal cost. Fine? Okay. The next one is differential cost. Differential cost is due to the difference in the value or the difference in the operation activities. Now, see for example, if there is a change in the method of production, suppose we use new technology. So with the help of new technology, suppose we are able to manufacture more units. So अगर वहाँ पे आपको economies of scale मिलता है, the more you produce, lesser will be the overall cost, right? तो ये benefit differential cost में आता है. तो differential cost, if you are changing, if due to the change there is an increase, अगर increase होता है, so that is called incremental cost. Very important one. Incremental cost. If due to the change there is an increase, and if due to the change there is a decrease, अगर आपकी इनकम डिक्रीज होती है तो दैट इज कॉल्ड डेक्रीमेंटल. ये दोनों वर्ड्स को याद रखना है. तो ये हो गए आपके डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ कॉस्ट जो एग्जाम में बहुत बार आता है. एंड इसके मेरे पास में कंप्लीट स्टडी मटेरियल्स हैं. And if you want to go through those materials, you can contact me through my WhatsApp number or email or Telegram channel. So thank you very much for watching this video.